Hello, everyone. Good evening. We are so excited for tonight's event. We've been in Italy all week with our 90 Days Around the World program, and tonight we're a little bit closer to home. We're on the West Coast in Oregon. We're so excited that Olivier is joining us from the A to Z Wineworks tonight. Also on the line, we have Megan from Horizon, Peter, the VP of Sales for A to Z. We also have Chad, our wine marketing specialist, Carrie, Sean, and I already said Peter. Sorry, Peter, you were about to get a double introduction. We're so happy that you're here. We're double happy that Peter was able to join us too.
I'm really happy to be here too.
So thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Looks like those of you joining on Zoom are just entering in from the waiting room. So for everybody watching tonight, if you're watching on Zoom, you can leave any questions or comments that you have for Olivier or anybody else on the line in the chat. You can also leave a question if you would like it to be a private question that will just come to myself and the other panelists. If you're watching on Facebook, please go ahead and leave a comment with any questions you have. We love questions, we love comments, so keep them coming. I am going to get us started actually with our first question. Who's tasting along tonight? If you're tasting along, leave a little comment on Zoom, comment with the wine emoji on Facebook. We love to know who's tasting along with Olivier tonight. So without further ado, Olivier is going to kick us off with a little bit of brand history tonight.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Olivier. I'm one of the winemakers at A to Z and Rexhill. So yeah, thank you for participating in the tasting. Last year we were in New Hampshire, so we're certainly missing the trip this year, but I'm certainly glad we can participate in one way or another. So yeah, the intent of this evening is for us to test through and for me to present you the lineup of the A to Z wines. So that we'll be doing. But maybe I might just give you a quick introduction as to what A to Z is. It's a company that was founded by four people, Deb and Bill Hatcher and Cheryl Francis and Sam Tenail. So the company was founded in 2002. So we are quickly approaching 20 years of this company. It's pretty unbelievable. The winery is located in Newburgh, so in the heart of the Willamette Valley, about 15 miles or so southwest of Portland. And our goal at the company, as far as producing wine, is trying to bring wine that are truly representative at Oregon, but at a fairly affordable price. The four founders, they were all involved into the wine industry prior to creating A to Z. And so, back in the early 2000s, Oregon was really getting to be known for producing world-class Pinots, but they were definitely driven in small-scale winery and sort of single vineyards. And so, the price of the wines were sort of getting to be somewhat expensive, and so the four founders, they found there was an opportunity to bring wines that were of very good quality, but at a little bit of a more affordable price. So this is how it started for the vintage 2001. And so fast forward 20 years later, we make obviously we represent quite a bit of Oregon wines within the industry, and so. Oregon is a perfect place to grow grapes from what we call cool climate varieties, and so the Pinot Gris and Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, for that matters. We got a lot of variation in climates, elevations, soil types, exposure, and even different vinage. It's a very dynamic industry, and so we get some very old vineyard and also some new plantings. So as far as the blending exercise. It's the bounty of opportunities in Oregon. Quickly, a little bit about myself. I started the company a little bit about 11 years ago. Maybe you guys figured that out. I'm from France originally, and I studied winemaking and viticulture in college. And I learned the ropes in France. I worked at several different several wine regions there. And then after that, I've always been attracted to working abroad and have experience abroad. So before Harvest 2007, I went and just decided to quit my job and went to the Napa Valley. And from there, I sort of started traveling and went to New Zealand, Australia. And when we were there, some good friend of us, they told us that they had just worked at a cool company in Oregon called Z Wineworks. And I was like, well, why don't we give it a try? And so I worked there, and then sort of, I've never really left. And so, yeah, so fast forward, to now, we are producing 7 wines, 3 white wines, 2 rosés, and 2 Pinot Noir. And so we source grapes from all over the state of Oregon, so to the very north, the Willamette Valley, of course, and then the Umpqua, which is more or less in the middle of the state, if you wish, from north to south. And then also the Rogue Valley, which is at the very south. We have some vineyards that we work with, which are almost at the Californian border. So a big spectrum, again, of what I was saying in the elevations and soil types and so on, and climates, of course. And we source about grapes from about 50 different vineyards, different sizes, small vineyards, and also fairly large as well. So that's what we do. We try to, our goal again is to produce wines that are food friendly and really also true to the variety. So when you drink our Pinot Noir, so you will really want to make sure that we represent what an Oregon Pinot Noir tastes like. So yeah, that's a little bit of the story there.
That's awesome. Thanks, Olivier. We've got quite a few people tasting along tonight. We've got some comments going here on Zoom and on Facebook, and a couple people already asking about inventory at our stores. Chad has already left in the chat here on Zoom some information with the current pricing and links to view product inventory. So I will also post that to Facebook for anybody watching on Facebook who wants to go and pick up a bottle. Tracy picked up hers before the event tonight at Store 50 down in Nashua. So Tracy is one of our regulars. So welcome, Tracy, and everybody else who is here tonight. It's been so great going around the world with you guys for the past couple of weeks, couple of months, I guess. So, all right, Olivier, I think it's time for tasting. What do you think?
All right, sure, sounds great. So yeah, we're gonna start with the, oh, there is a bit of a delay in the camera again. The Chardonnay. So again, for all the A to Z wine sort of follow the same recipe. So they are Oregon based, they are not Willamette Valley. So again, we blend from more or less all the AVAs existing in Oregon. So they are all Oregon wines. So this is our vintage 2019. So, made not that long ago. And the Chardonnay, so what we try to do is crisp wine. So there is no oak, it's all stainless steel fermentation. I guess we like the purity of the fruit, to keep the purity of the fruit. And we like the wine to be crisp. But we also like the wine to have enough body. So to do a body, you need the lees contact. And this is typically why you will either ferment or age in barrels to have that nice contact with the lees. And so as we only do tank aging, tank fermentation, what we do is we'll mechanically mix the lees. And so with a pump, we'll try to pump at the bottom the lees and put them on top. And so as the lees settle back down into the tank, it will create that interaction with the wine. And this is how we can build a mid palate. And so the way we also build complexity, as we don't use oak, is we definitely try to pick at the different stage of ripeness the fruit. So we'll pick some fruit early on to get some good natural acidity. And we also leave some grapes on the vine to get a little bit more ripeness, a little bit more richness. And by combining those two, we sort of get the best of both, where we don't get flabby, let's go on to the apricot or tropical. We still retain a crispness, but we also really bring texture to the wine.
I'm wondering if anybody is tasting along. If you are tasting this wine, do you have any questions for Olivier about this specific wine? Or we'd just love to know if you're tasting along and if you're enjoying it. So
the Chardonnay is really the new up and coming thing in Oregon. I think Oregon is very known for Pinot Noir. And as far as the white wine, it was also, Pinot Gris heavily, and and more producers are turning themselves toward Chardonnay. It grows extremely well in Oregon. Again, being a cool climate, people figure out the right elevation, the right clones. It's also very important. And so more and more over the last 15 years, more French clones were imported as opposed to Californian ones. And so it really brings, again, a good complexity. And yeah, A to Z, we've really seen great growth with this product. We have had some very good scores lately, and it's a very popular wine for us, a wine that we grow every year.
awesome. So Olivier, we talked a little bit about this before we got started today, but somebody left a question for Olivier on Facebook before the event even started. So we talked a little bit about this before because I was curious what the answer was, and I bet everybody else is too. So the question was, why is it called A to Z Wineworks and not A to Z Winery?
Yeah, the Wineworks versus winery, A to Z was started as, it was not a winery. They didn't really have any sort of physical location, as one would say. The four founders, they were, which is pretty common in Oregon, you have what we call a custom crush. It's another winery where you're going to bring your grapes to, and they're going to make the wine for you. And so this is how the four founders, they started it. They started by buying some wine already made and also grapes. And so they didn't really have the capital to build a winery and start it from scratch that way. And so it's a good and easy way to enter into the wine industry. And so this is what's called Wineworks. There was no winery. And back in 2006, A to Z purchased the winery that's called Rexil. So Rexil was one of the first winery in the Willamette Valley. It was built in 1982, created in 1982. And A to Z was making a portion of its wine at Rexil for a while. And, Rexil was interested in, passing the legacy along, and A to Z was interested in actually at establishing itself as a winery. So, but that's why it's Winework versus winery. It started as a side project with no physical location. But yeah, now we're really well established.
You certainly are, and we are proud to have your 7 wines available here in New Hampshire in our stores.
Thank you. Do we want to move on to the Pinot Gris?
Yes, please.
So Pinot Gris, we follow the same recipe. And for this one, we like to, so same principle. So stainless steel fermentation, no barrels. And but for this wine, we like, because we like this specific wine to be very well done with food, very food friendly. We like to be on a fairly riper side. So we'll definitely try to keep the grapes as long on the vine as possible. And again, trying to build that complexity, that natural complexity, as opposed to having to build it up at the winery. And so same principle, we get grapes from all over the States. We like grapes, especially specifically for this program, to come from Southern Oregon, when again, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit drier and a little bit warmer. And so we can really get grapes that are ripe quickly. And then we still reserve a portion of the Willamette Valley to definitely get, again, that natural acidity and length. So it's a wine that we want have a good succulence, and then being very food friendly.
So Olivier, Paul here on Zoom, another one of our regular attendees of our 90 days events. Hey, Paul. He would like to know what blend is used for the Pinot Gris.
So the blend is, it's pretty much, as far as varietal, it is Pinot Gris. So it's just one sort of grapes. And then it varies year by year. So I don't really have the details for that specific 2019, but it's definitely the majority of Southern Oregon. So the Rogue Valley, very south of the state. And so I would say it's about 75% Southern Oregon and then 25% Willamette Valley.
Cool.
Is that answer the question? Does that answer the question?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
One more for you.
Yep.
So Frank on Facebook, he has a question about Oregon Chardonnays. I know we've moved on to the Pinot Gris, but before we get too far away from it, he is curious if Oregon Chardonnays are the quote unquote next sought after wines following Napa and Sonoma.
It's it's definitely California, still by far is the main producer of Chardonnay, but Oregon is getting up there. Oregon had a bit of a funny story with Chardonnay, because what was available at the time were only Californian clones, and those were made for warm climates. And so in Oregon, they really had a tough time to get things ripe. They will not build sugar to build enough alcohol. They will have trouble, having acid to ripen as well. So some very motivated people in Oregon decided to work with the local university and start bringing clones from France. And since then, it really took off. And so it took a little while for mentality to change. And of course, there is also it was tough to compete, on the market for California. But again, I think as producers now have mastered the making of Pinot Noir, have been really recognized. I think they want to bring something different. And so Chardonnay, obviously, being also parallel to Burgundy, I think people are very excited to build a Chardonnay program. And it's a very, there is a whole committee about it. We do an industry meeting to try to come up with what do we feel collectively should an Oregon Chardonnay taste like, or Willamette Valley Chardonnay taste like. People start making single vineyard from Chardonnay. We at Rexil do that, and so I think people are very excited. And I think it's pretty big.
Awesome.
I think Domaine Serene got number 3, top 100 spectator for that's Chardonnay. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal.
Cool. So I do have another question for Chad. Chad, somebody on Facebook is wanting to know if the A to Z Chardonnay is available at all of our stores or if it's only available at specialty stores.
So the A to Z Chardonnay should be available at all of our stores. If you do have trouble finding it, please ask a store employee. They can find it for you, but it is widely available, and there's plenty of inventory out there, and it is on a great sale right now at $16.99. So please pick up a bottle of this phenomenal Chardonnay.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. I suspect we're going to have more inventory questions, so I hope you have those ones ready too.
I could not stop myself, but noticing the question about the Voodoo Donut partnership. That's a good one. We don't we have never worked with them, but we've definitely worked with other. We've worked with a soda company, a local soda company, give them some juice, grape juice, before it's fermented. We definitely work with quite a lot of brewery around the area where they are interested in getting some barrels to age their own beer. So typically they want the lees as well, and so they are happy to make not ferment, but age their beer in wine barrels, sometimes with and without the lees. So no voodoo donut, but definitely some other local industries as well, which always make pretty fun.
A friend of mine went out there and went to Voodoo Donuts a few years ago, and I wanted her to bring me one back so badly, but she wouldn't. So I guess I'll just have to come out. I'll help with harvest, get some donuts.
Exactly. All right. If we want to move on maybe to the A to Z Rosé.
Awesome. I think this might be one of the first rosés we've had on as part of our 90 Days Around the World program. It's November to January. People are usually, we're thinking a lot about reds to go with like hearty meals, but personally, I think a rosé is perfect for any day of the year. So.
Yes, so it's a rosé that we launched now quite a few years ago, and we were always aiming at releasing the wine around, so it's available for Valentine's Day, and it was always a wink, obviously, and it was always very, very popular, and since we've seen that success, we've always tried to make it a year-round SKU that we could have enough inventory or make enough that it will be available, a year-round, as opposed to being sold and consumed, within a couple of months. I mean, everybody was rushing towards it. And recently, we just changed the packaging from a label to a screen-printed version. So that works. Yeah, it's a very popular wine for us. Very fun to make. And it's based on Sangiovese mainly. It used to be exclusive Sangiovese, and then as the program sort of grew, we had to mix in some other varieties. So a bit of Grenache, a bit of Syrah, a little bit of Pinot Noir as well. So we want it to be very what we call primary, so fruity. And good level of acid, a little bit of residual sugar in it to again bring a good balance. And so typically the way we do this wine is we will harvest the grapes and put them into the press and close up the press for a couple of hours for the time for the color to be released from the skin to the juice. And after that, it will be pressed and then fermented like a white wine. So that's the way we sort of do our rosé.
Chad, do we have that bottle already?
So unfortunately, we do not have the rosé bottle already, but we are going to work on getting it as soon as possible for our stores.
I mean, I want to drink that rosé and then turn that bottle into a vase.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I was saying, typically we run out very quickly of this wine. And so that's one of the wine that we can't miss the bottling. This wine will be bottled in about a week and a half from the previous vintage, obviously. And so, very quickly it goes out the door into the market. And again, it's a great wine to obviously taste fresh and young. Again, we make the wine in a way that's it is fruit driven and fresh. So it is definitely made to be drunk fairly quickly after its bottling. So.
Olivier, do you suggest refrigerating the rosé?
Yes, yep, definitely. I mean, yeah, exactly. I'll definitely be, all the wine that we typically make at A to Z. I mean, even the Pinot Noir, I would, it's good to keep them on the fresher side. Not in the fridge necessarily, but they are definitely wine to be chilled and enjoyed crisp for sure.
Great.
Right,
we did have a question asking which grapes you used for the rosé, but you answered that a little bit while we were going through it. Do you mind just reiterating which grapes are used?
With pleasure, yeah. So it's mainly Sangiovese. We love Sangiovese because they are those big giant cluster, and they really, when you don't want to make them as a red wine, they bring a lot of very good fruit flavor, very fruity, very primary. And so we also blend in some Grenache, which again, when it's grown to be made as a rosé, really brings a lot of primary fruit as well. And then we put a little bit of Syrah and also a little bit of Pinot Noir as well.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, of course. So I'll move on to the next. This is our other rosé, but it's a bubbly rosé. I'll call it the bubbles. And so this is, so as we were talking about what's sort of next in Oregon, what's the up and coming, it's the sparkling becomes also a big thing in Oregon. So the sparkling tip, like champagne, but also fun sort of sparkly, bubbly wines like that. So this wine is made like a rosé wine, and then after that it's called force carbonated. So we inject CO2 in it to make it fizzy. So it's not so much as a sparkling wine per se, the traditional method, but it's definitely more a fizz to bring a wine that's fun. The bubbles are really there to help with the aromatic, the freshness of the wine, and making it lively and enjoyable. And so this wine is made about 90%. Again, it depends of the year, but 90% Pinot Noir and about 10% Chardonnay. And so we'll make this wine. So again, sparkling wine, it's always interesting because you make the wine and then you have to account for what the bubbles will bring. So typically it will enhance the perception of acidity and decrease the perception of sweetness. And so you have to make what we call the base wine per se, so the wine before the bubbles, accounting for those factors. So it's been a very interesting process. It's the latest wine that we brought into the A to Z portfolio. And again, I think it complements really well the lineup of A to Z, a wine that's fun, definitely not too serious, just a wine to enjoy as is. We were sort of having fun, when we were tasting those wines and we were lunching, is like, it's a wine that you should be able to enjoy in a solo cup, not in a flute or not in a wine glass. Again, it was really a wine to be made to be fun and enjoy.
So we do have a few questions for you about the rosé and the sparkling rosé.
Okay.
Let's start with the sparkling rosé. So somebody noticed that the sparkling rosé has a cap rather than a cork. Does that mean that it's under less pressure than other sparklings?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, exactly. Again, the goal here is not to make a sparkling wine in the traditional way of making, where it's more like a fizzy rosé wine than it is a sparkling wine. And so for us, we also wanted to make fun, and having the what's called a crown cap. Again, it separates it into not making it too serious. It's a wine you just grab your can opener or and then you pop it and off you go, and then you enjoy it. We've also launched now this wine into cans, so you can have this wine into 250 milliliter cans. And again, it's just a wine that you bring in a picnic or any sort of celebration you may have. Very summery wine, and then you enjoy as is. So the crown cap was definitely to separate it. So visually people can see that it's a wine that's not going to be too serious and should not be compared with a sparkling wine.
And then for the sparkling rosé, Tracy is wondering if you can talk a little bit about the taste profiles.
Yeah. So the same principle as we want the wine to be very, very lively, and also very fruity. So a wine that will be very, very pleasurable to drink, and that you just want to enjoy for as is. So we like to have good like strawberry, creaminess. Sometimes we can almost say like how do you call that? Strawberry shake, something that's going to be really being easy going to drink, really enjoyable, and something that you want to have another glass of, for sure.
Excellent. And then just one more question about the non-sparkling rosé before we move on. Should the non-sparkling rosé be enjoyed within a year after it is bottled?
It's a good question. Typically, wines under screw cap, they tend not to age very quickly, and so we also, at the time of bottling, we try to pay extra attention, and any air or oxygen that may be introduced is actually being removed before it goes into bottle. So it's a pretty safe and sound environment, and so I think you can consume the wine over a year. There is no perishable timestamp per se, but I think in all those wines that are fresh and fruit driven and easygoing, I think within a year seems very reasonable.
Awesome. Great question, Paula. Thanks for tuning in tonight. All right. Which wine do you have next for us, Olivier?
We can move on to the Riesling. So here's another very popular wine of ours. So some of the, Oregon, they tried to make a push for the Riesling. I think what's very different is what has been changing is typically, winemakers were trying to reciprocate Riesling from Germany or Alsace from France, which are tend to be very dry, bone dry, and for some reason it never really caught on on the American market, the domestic market, and so for us we've been adapting a little bit our style of Riesling to a Riesling that's a little bit more semi-sweet, it's called, so as a little bit of what we call residual sugar. So to do that, we will try to pay attention at fermentation, and when we arrive, the alcoholic fermentation, and when we arrive at a certain level, we will stop the fermentation, which that will be then leaving some residual sugar and help again with that generosity on the mid palate, and all of that will be balanced with a great acidity. And so again, this wine we also want it to be friendly. We don't really want to be going to the Riesling that sometimes go into the petroleum, kerosene, which is very interesting and very intriguing, but also again not very on the fresh side. So something we pay extra attention to. And so we like a lot of aromas of citrus, lime, sometimes grapefruit, and so. And again, also building that nice mid palate. Sometimes we can go a little bit on the honey.
Olivia, I just want to let you know, Serena here on Zoom, she's tuning in tonight. Her mother is a big fan of Rieslings, and she introduced her to yours a few months ago, and she loves it. Thank you.
It is interesting when we go on the market, and I think sometimes people are, they have had one experience with a Riesling or Chardonnay, and people know their wine, they know what they like, and sometimes Riesling can be definitely one of those sort of bipolar wine, but for us we've had great success. Again, it's a wine that we struggle to keep year round. It's very, very, very popular for sure, and it's hard to find actually grapes in Oregon to build that program. So yeah, it's a good problem for us to have.
What would you pair the Riesling with? Like if somebody was going to serve it with dinner, what would you suggest they serve it with?
It goes with a wide range of, again, because it's of that sweetness. I think it goes really well with spicy, things that are spicy, that can be also a little bit creamy. I think it's a great food pairing with some, chicken and so on.
Awesome. One of our viewers on Facebook, SJ, he is wondering what the level of sweetness to your Riesling is.
It's about 10 grams per liter of sugar.
He also says that he prefers a dry Riesling. Do you think he would like yours? I think yes, but
Yeah, again, it's called the German. They have a whole categorizations of very dry, semi-sweet. There is not such things here, but if you like it very bone dry, I mean, obviously you will be a little surprised by the the viscosity of the residual sugar that we have. But I think, yeah, I think it's serious enough. And again, that's what we do at we try to do at A to Z, is that it's something you can definitely call a Riesling. Again, Riesling, there's a wide range of way to make a Riesling. Some like to be very barrel aged and aged for a long time. Again, we like that fresh and crispness. I think you will not be disappointed, that's for sure. Yeah.
all right, SJ, you heard it from the winemaker himself. Give it a
Give
try.
it a try. Give it a try. And let us know what you think.
Awesome. And then Donna here on Zoom also said she hasn't tried your Riesling yet, but she's really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think we have a couple wines left. What's next?
Yep. So we can go to the red wines. So the two Pinot. So we can start with the main wine that we make. So the A to Z Pinot Noir. So we can definitely see a trend again with the A to Z wine. I mean, besides the bubble, all the wines are under screw cap. Again, we do believe that's the best closure for the kind of wine that we like to make. We don't particularly expect for the wine to age in bottle like you will make in maybe smaller scale, that you bottle the wine knowing that the wine might be set out for a while. So I think those screw caps really helps us keep the freshness, the fruitiness, and the priming of those wines. So the Pinot Noir follow the same recipe. We get fruit from all over the states, again we are always constantly looking to how do we make a wine that's very serious and it's very Pinot Noir. The A to Z Pinot Noir is one of the most Oregon wines sold, and so we want to make sure that we represent truly what the Oregon wines are and Pinot Noirs are for sure. And so our goal is to have a good color, a decent color, which we know is pretty challenging of Pinot Noir. Tannins fairly moderate, and what we really are looking for is a good weight on the palate. Make sure that this wine is very pleasurable, and so for that, again, we'll definitely pay attention to how the grapes are grown during the growing season. When we harvest them, that's definitely the key number one, is when we harvest. And then after that, make sure that on the fermentation side that we ferment fairly cool, make sure we retain some of those aromatics. We don't extract too many tannins. And as far as aging goes, we do mainly tank aging, but we do have a big park of barrels as well. They are what we call neutral barrels, so they will not be giving aromas and flavors of oak per se, but they will definitely help with the aging, that sort of micro-oxygenation, natural micro-oxygenation happening, but also having a bed of lees will definitely help building that mid palate and complexity.
So we've got a few questions for you about this wine, Olivier, but before I jump into those, I do want to let everybody know that after Olivier finishes the tasting tonight, he actually has a 1 point, oh, hold on, let me check my note before I say this because I don't want to say it wrong. A 1.5 liter bottle of the A to Z Pinot Noir signed by Olivier, that we are going to be doing a little bit of trivia, and a lucky viewer from New Hampshire is going to win that signed bottle. So, you know, for those of you who just got excited by that tasting, one of you could be winning a big old bottle of it. So Donna here on Zoom, she is wondering what type of foods you would suggest pairing with the Pinot Noir. She wants to know, what do you think it would contrast perfectly with?
I think, you know, obviously meat is a good one. I personally always tend to be on the fence of, like, you know, having red wine with fish. Some people do it. You know, I think Pinot Noir, again, it's pretty delicate, and especially the one from Oregon, they are pretty delicate. They don't really have a huge amount of alcohol or a huge amount of tannins. So, you know, pretty simple meat, whether it's again, like a chicken with maybe not too much cream or not too much fat. You know, a meat that will be a bit more on the lean side, again, because that doesn't already have that big tannins to fight the proteins of all those meats or any sort of cream. So, you know, very good sort of barbecue kind of wine, you know, this kind of cooking. It's not just a summery wine, but, you know, the kind of grilling that you will do, having meat that's, you know, not too sweet of a sauce or not too creamy of a sauce. Yeah.
Great. And then we've got a question from Michael. He is curious, would it help to decant the Pinot Noir, or do you recommend drinking it straight from the bottle?
I will definitely recommend drinking it from the bottle. I think you know, we typically, the way we make the wine and the way we release the wine, particularly the red wine, we want it to be when it goes on the market. So when people will be pulling it from the shelf and most likely drinking pretty soon afterwards, we want that wine to be ready to be drunk. You know, we don't really make A to Z wines for them to be aged. You know, that's why we have the Rexil label for that. You know, much smaller, much more sort of higher end wine, small scale per se, if you want. And we know that those people will pay, you know, $50, $60. I enjoy selling those wines. A to Z is very different. So I will just enjoy the fact. I mean, it's a good experiment. You might want to do it both, but as far as if you want an answer from the winemaker, again, we make the wines in a sense where when you open the bottle, it is ready to drink. And typically, well, I don't know about you, but typically it takes me an hour or two to maybe go through a whole bottle of wine. And so, you know, during that time, the wine will evolve as well. It will change. You know, that's why I was telling you a little bit earlier, I don't mind having my Pinot Noir a little bit cool at the beginning. Maybe again, not at a fresh temperature, but having it a little bit cool and enjoying it over a meal, you know, let's say an hour and a half, and see how the wine evolve in the bottle as it warms up, how it changes. I like that, see that, and for this specific one, I don't really think you need to go through the process of a carafe.
Excellent. And then, so we just talked about how to drink the Pinot Noir once you've already bought it, but we do have another question about how long it is aged before it's put in those bottles.
Very good question. Typically, the aging is about, for the A to Z Pinot Noir, it's about 6 months.
Cool.
So the wine is, you know, finished in end of October, and then typically it's bottled in June. So a little bit over 6 months, depending on the year. You know, Oregon's very finicky. Sometimes we have early harvest, sometimes we have very late harvest. So depending on the year, it can swing by over a month.
Great. How was the harvest this past year?
Very challenging, very, very challenging for many different reasons. But it was beautiful. It made for some really concentrated. It was a great, what we call growing season. So the whole spring and summer and leading to harvest, the conditions were great. We had a bit of rain when we needed it, and beautiful weather when we also needed it. So it was very good. A lot of the vineyard that we work with, what we call dry farm, so there is no irrigation system, and so for that you rely on natural rainfall. So
Great. And then just before we move on to our last wine, we have a follow-up on the aging process. Joe would like to know, is the Pinot Noir also aged in stainless steel tanks?
yes, yep. So I will say about 25% of the wine is aged in barrel. And so those barrels will range from 3-year-old to up to 10 years old. So again, it's barrels will still have the porosity to help with that micro-oxygenation, but won't really bring any smell of, or taste of oak, what you can assimilate with a barrel aging. And so the rest is indeed in tank, yeah.
Great. All right, I think we have one more pretty special wine, is that right?
Yes, so that's what we call, our other Pinot Noir. So that's what we call the essence. And so when we launched this wine, by the time the wine was going to be released, it will coincide with the 15th year anniversary of A to Z. And so when A to Z turned 15 years old as a company, obviously it was a big milestone. And so we really wanted to thank all our partners. And so our main partners are the growers that we work with. And we wanted to showcase a little bit about what A to Z could produce if we were to do selections of barrels, some of our best lots, and again, and showcase what we can do. So it was a good opportunity to thank our growers, thank our partners, celebrate the company's obviously achievement, and also create something that was a little bit special as well, for all of us. So this wine is exclusively barrel aged. It is the same, not a specific AVA, not a specific Southern Oregon, or not a specific Willamette Valley. It's a blend of all of those AVAs. It is 100% Pinot Noir, obviously. And to bounce back on the aging, this is 10 months aging on barrels. So a bit closer to what we do at Rexil here. It's a 10, 11 months aging process. So we wanted this wine to be obviously a souped up version, so a little bit more darkness, a little bit more structure, and again, getting closer to what a reserve will be, something that we sort of really cherry pick the lots, the specific barrels, and so on.
That's great. We have a couple of questions for you, Olivier, kind of more general questions, not about this wine specifically. Donna is wondering if you practice sustainable farming methods.
Yes, we do. So the vineyard that we own, that the company owns, or long-term lease that we found, we do either organic or biodynamic. That's obviously, I'm sure you can understand that those vineyards tend to go a little bit more on the Rexil side, where you have a better margin. Obviously, that has a cost. And then we really try to encourage the growers we work with to certify themselves. It's called LIVE here in Oregon, LIVE, low input viticulture and energy. And so again, it's trying to be sustainable. We also have our viticulture team here, Joey and Devin. That's really their job, to go and do grower relation, to just trying to educate them on how to be sustainable. That just blasting pesticides or herbicides, this is not a good solution. One of the one is simply financial. You can tell them, if you pay a bit more attention, you can save on spray. If you don't use this but that, you can save. That's a language everybody understands. And then on top of that, we definitely try to educate to it's better for the environment, it's better for everybody. And we do test our wines as well for all those chemicals. We don't want any residue. And in Oregon itself, it's a pretty, statewide, it's a pretty environmentally friendly. So the rules are already there on top of that, but we also want to bring that conscience. to obviously ourselves, but to all our growers for sure.
Great. And then we have another question related to your vines. Can you talk a little bit about where your vines were sourced from and how long it took to obtain their first viable fruits?
So there is a different, just talking about Pinot Noir, there is definitely quite a few what we call clones. So they're all called Pinot Noir, but they are sort of different clones. So they will have different characteristics, and they will come from different part of the world. So what is definitely mainly known are those clones that are coming from Burgundy. There is also a couple of clones that are used in Oregon that are coming from California, UC Davis. There is a couple of also clones that come from Germany, a couple of clones that come from Switzerland. And so that's all where they originated at the beginning with. And so now it's pretty, all of that, the Oregon industry, wine industry is old now. It's pretty mature. So there is a good supplies, if you go to nurseries, good supplies of those grapes, but it's not that long ago that, people that were called the pioneers, they had to go through all of that because they had very little to work with. And again, what they had were more suited for California. And so they had to be a little bullish and take some risks and experiment and try. And so, and now it's pretty easily accessible to get all of that material. But back then it was not so difficult. So we can definitely thank those pioneers. And that's definitely one of the, perk to work in Oregon is like the industry is very tight. The wine industry is very, very collaborative, a lot of exchange. And it's definitely a region where if one of the wineries shine, whether it's in the press, the publications, or on the market, it definitely helps everybody grow. Everybody is talking about their winery, but also about Oregon, about the Pinot from their winery, but also the Pinot of made in Oregon. We're all ambassadors of this area, of this region, and we all believe that, if the whole Oregon is known, everybody will benefit from it.
Awesome.
And I think there was also another part of the question. Sorry. It typically, once you plant a vine, you will harvest fruit that's viable for the plant and to make wine at the third year. So you have to wait 3 years between planting and being able to make the first wine.
Cool. We had a question in the Zoom chat from Jill for Chad, and she was curious if we always have a case discount on wine. And so Chad, for everybody watching on Facebook, would you mind just sharing a little bit of information about that for everybody who didn't get to see your answer already? Because it's a good one.
So we almost always offer a case discount on wine. This month we are doing our 15% off Cheers to You case discount, which is 12 or more bottles mix or mash of the 375 and 750 milliliter sizes. It changes from month to month, so it depends on the month, but we do change it up every single month. So you would have to go into the stores and see what the actual discount is. Sometimes it's domestic wine, sometimes it's all of the wines in a customer appreciation sale. Sometimes it's a little more specific where we'll do sparkling or ports or sherries. So it does change consistently.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Yeah, so right now is a great time to, you can try the 7 wines that we went through with Olivier tonight, add 5 more, get your case discount. So it's a good time to try some new wines. Yes, Jill just left a comment, stock up, it's the time. Agreed, Jill. All right. Olivier, do you think that it's time for our trivia question?
Sure.
All right, everyone. Olivier is going to ask you a trivia question. The prize is a signed bottle of the A to Z Pinot Noir. You must be a New Hampshire resident to claim this prize. So please, everybody leave your answers. I want to see everybody's answers, but if you have to be a New Hampshire resident to win the prize tonight. But you can still win. You're still eligible for the grand prize for our 90 Days Around the World promotion, which is the Ultimate Home Bar. So you can still play along with that, even though you can't win the wine tonight. All right, I'm going to be looking for the correct answer. Olivier, you can ask the question. I'm ready to watch.
So the question is, how many vineyards does A to Z source grapes from?
All right, we've got quite a few. Okay, it's Eve. Eve, congratulations. So the correct answer was 50. Congratulations.
15, yeah.
Congratulations to Eve who got that right. I knew the answer. Olivier gave it to me before the presentation tonight.
The round number. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot of work when it's time to check on all those vineyards and again talking to those growers. We certainly understand that to make great wine, it really goes by growing good grapes. This is really where it starts. It's very difficult to make a great wine out of not very good grapes. So the relationship that we have with those growers is, it's detrimental to our success. So if we can't grow good grapes, we can't make good wine, and we can't offer good stuff to you. So we are very thankful to all those growers. They are easy years, more challenging years, but we want to learn. We want to work on the long term, and that really we have to long-term commitment with those guys for sure.
Great. So there is one question on Facebook for me. So somebody wants to know when I'm going to announce the code word for tonight. I'm going to do it right now. So tonight's code word, where is Olivier joining us from? From Oregon. Oregon is the code word for tonight. Enter that into your Passport app, and we're doing double points right now. So you get 200 points for attending tonight's event, which gets you closer to earning an entry to the Ultimate Home Bar. So our Ultimate Home Bar is, it's a $2,500 gift card, plus a bunch of other stuff that I don't even have time to list for you. So you are going to be well positioned when the world goes back to the way it was, to have some really fabulous parties at your house. So code word Oregon, 200 points. If anybody is interested in watching some replays of other 90 Days events, you can still earn points for those events as well. They're all up on our YouTube page. And if you use Facebook, they're all up on Facebook as well. So Olivier, we have a couple more questions for you. So in regard to the Essence Pinot Noir, could you talk a little bit more about the flavor profile and some tasting notes, please?
Yeah, so the Essence Pinot Noir, as I was trying to explain, we try to make a little bit richer, and we also try to have a more barrel presence. And so you'll still have some very good fruit, but we also try to bring a little bit more spice into it, type Christmas spice, a little bit of licorice, some vanilla, a little bit maybe of a little bit of chocolate. On the nose we have a lot of cherries, dark cherries. Again, it's some fruit profile that will be a little bit more on the darker side, as opposed to more on the the A to Z, the other A to Z Pinot. We try to do a bit more of raspberries, strawberries, wild strawberries. So a bit of what we call a darker profile per se.
Cool. And then Chad, follow up from that same customer. Which of our stores is the Essence Pinot available at?
So much like the rosé, we are working on getting some of the Essence Pinot. We get a very small amount allocated every year, but we are going to allocate some out to our stores, so it will be available at a lot of our stores in the future.
All right, you heard it here first. Rosé and Essence Pinot Noir coming soon, guys. So Olivier, last question. I mean, we did just kind of tease that the Rosé and the Essence are coming to our stores really soon. We do already have them programmed, so you'll be able to view inventory on our website. But what else is happening at the Wineworks? What else can we be on the lookout for?
I think we're pretty happy with the lineup. We are not really trying to change much. I think we want to make sure that we represent wines that are made of Oregon. So if we start making a Cabernet Sauvignon, I think people will question a little bit of what's going on. But I think we are just committed to keep improving the quality. Finding vineyards that are working for us. There is obviously an economical reality that we need to face as well. And again, we're just committed to find ways to improve quality. winery has had good success, and we were able to grow quite a bit over the years. But how do we make sure we reconcile the growth with keeping up with the quality? That's a challenge that we face every year. One of the obviously the challenge that we have is make sure there's consistency in the product year after year. Oregon is very known for what we call vintage variation, where 1 year will be cool and rainy, and then the next year it can be sunny and dry and warm. And I think it makes for very great stories when you can sell the wine at a tasting room or at a restaurant. But when it's sold on the national market, it's a little bit harder to control and being able to explain that. So we work really hard to have some sort of a consistency within each year that people can certainly recognize the wine, 1 year after the other. And so that's something we spend a lot of time. And then for us, at the winery there was question about sustainability. We work hard on the vineyard side to be as sustainable as we can, but also at the winery as well. How do we control our carbon footprint? How can we be a bit more efficient, a little bit safer as well? So all of those are very important, and something we are winemakers, we're also managers, so we spend a lot of time try to enhance the quality, work quality, work life as well. So a lot of time, we spend a lot of energy on that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olivier. The response in the chat and on Facebook has been great, with people tasting along and just countless comments about their favorite of the A to Z wines. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have a great following here in New Hampshire. We hope that we'll be able to have our Winter Wine Spectacular next year, and that you'll get to come and see us in person. We'll do a real tasting with you next year. So,
yes, please. Yeah, no, it's a trip that I always look forward to doing, for the last 4 years now. So yeah, no, thank you very much for the support. It's very, very, very nice.
Awesome. It was our pleasure having you on tonight. If anybody has any additional questions for Olivier, please go ahead and leave those in the comments section on the Facebook Live recording or on YouTube, and I will email them over to him. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in tonight. If you would like any additional information about our Ultimate Home Bar or about our 90 Days Around the World program, please visit 90daysaroundtheworld.com. Tomorrow night, we're going to be heading south a little bit, going into California with the Barefoot team. And then next week we have our final 5 events, but there is still time for you to qualify for the Ultimate Home Bar. So go ahead and visit 90daysaroundtheworld.com. And Olivier, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Chad, as always. And of course, our behind the scenes team tonight, Carrie, Megan, and Sean. We appreciate you guys all helping out tonight. It was great tasting, 7 wines. What a night. All right, everybody. I hope you all have a great rest of your night and have a little wine waiting for you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.